Yo, what's going on, Time Clan? It is your boy King Time Next here, back with another video. And well, actually, before we even get into the video, I would just like to say I have a Discord. You guys should join, cause I got a bunch of ideas that I'm just waiting to release soon. But I want to actually get you guys' opinions on some of them within the Discord. You'll be able to see a bunch of thumbnails there for a bunch of different ideas I have. I'm just waiting for you guys to join so that I can actually discuss with some of you these ideas. So far, it's pretty much only been me and Neptune to really discuss some of these ideas in depth. Anyways, that's all. Now we can roll that intro.
In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the tone when I'm festing like Pilates. Why you frontin', you act like you somebody. Keep a trail in the ville, how I go by it. I was stuck in the rut, I was nobody. I've been looking for something to go by it. There's an art to the hustle like yo got it. Kick out a kick back and hit like a new shotty. In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the tone when I'm
Mephisto. Mephisto was a famous name within the underworld. Hardly anyone knew of when he first appeared in the world. He seemingly just existed. His presence dated back to the beginning of man. They couldn't necessarily explain his presence, but over time the people simply accepted it. He was seemingly all-powerful, the strongest of all the devils, a conqueror of the sorts, only really being interested in increasing his own strength and power. There were multiple times throughout history people were tricked by Mephisto. This had some serious consequences for the people sometimes. There were occasions where their souls were snatched, while at other times they would find themselves bearing the child of Mephisto. Mephisto, over the centuries, began to grow bored with his position of power. There was a great war between all three of the factions at one point in history. It was probably one of the most exciting moments in Mephisto's life. He couldn't even remember when he was first created, but what he did know was that this war tested his strength for the first time in, ever. His strength, mental fortitude, and skills. The angels lost their leader, the devils lost Lucifer. He was disappointed to see what was basically his right hand man dead, but he had to keep moving on. He had a faction to lead after all. He picked up the remnants of the devils and reformed them. Because of the fact they were at an all-time loss of numbers, they had to resort to reincarnating other races into devils. Mephisto gathered new advisors in order to help him keep track of his government. One of his best advisors went by the name of Sir Zex Gremory. He granted the red-haired devil the title of Lucifer after years of serving him well. He performed the best out of all five of his advisors after all, and was essentially his new right-hand man. Seraphal Citri was the most capable out of all female devils of her time. She could be described as being the ultimate female devil at times. He granted her the title of Leviathan. Falbium, you guys already know I'm gonna pronounce this name wrong, so let's just do it. Falbium Glacia Labolis was selected for one of their greatest abilities, absolute defense. Mephisto found them worthy of taking on the title of Asmodeus. And Andruka Azeroth was one of the strongest devils during this time in history. He was essentially a super devil, almost comparable to that of Cerex. He was given the title of Beelzebub. Graphia was probably one of Mephisto's most loyal advisors. She was described as being the ultimate queen, and seeing her performance in rating games, Mephisto cannot deny that title. She was even called the silver-haired queen of annihilation. He liked her. Hearing about the marriage between Cerex and Graphia made Mephisto intrigued to see what sort of spawn they would create. Two powerful devils reproducing with each other? Oh, he could only imagine just what sort of potential the kid would show when they were brought into the world. There was also this thing about sacred gears apparently. They started popping up in the human world and devils were seeking them out. All of the factions actually. These sacred gears varied in power and strength. Some simply boosted physical strength, while others granted the wielders the capability of healing themselves and others. Some could even siphon the power of others. Needless to say, Mephisto wanted to bear a heir to his throne with that sort of power. There was one issue though. His heir had to be quite human in order to have a chance at having a sacred gear. Mephisto made his way over to the human world and began looking for anyone worthy of bearing his children. He shapeshifted into what humans would consider to be a rather attractive male. Hollow cheeks, square chin, sunken eyes, slicked back black hair, and an aesthetically pleasing muscular physique. He was also standing at 6'2". He also went by the name Bruce Wayne. I'm just kidding. I'll blame Neptune for that. This would guarantee he would have many options for a wife. In all honesty, the only reason he would be interested in having a wife here would be because of the fact he wanted to raise his heir and see them develop into someone worthy of eventually being right beside him on his throne. If he were to ever somehow die too, they would be the one to take the throne. No one else. He had many children over the years, but none ever seemed to have what he wanted. Once he found out about the sacred gears and delved deep into the different forms, the ones that interested him the most were the boosted gear and divine dividing. He would only truly be satisfied if his children obtained either one of these gears. Most he had to dispose of because they either didn't have the gear he was looking for or no gear at all. He would usually drag the kids back to his realm in order to remove the sacred gears, since even though they weren't what he wanted, it would have been a waste to not keep the gears within his army. Mephisto began to grow annoyed with the repetitiveness of it all. He wasn't going to give up hope just yet, but he did plan to become more selective with his women. Those who would bear the right to have his children had to fulfill a couple of requirements first. They needed to be strong and preferably have sacred gears or be adept in magic. They were more difficult to come across, but he could tell someone was strong by their magical aura. That was how he ended up meeting his greatest wife yet, Lavinia Renee was her name. She checked off all the categories. She was attractive, well versed in magic, and even had a powerful sacred gear. What more could he have ever asked for in a woman? He was able to easily attract her towards him, and soon enough, the two were married. Mephisto kept this a secret from the west, from the rest of the underworld, though. He didn't want to have them knowing of his current lover and eventually also find out about his potential son or daughter. If this one didn't possess what he was looking for, he would have to start over. This one he was willing to give another chance towards, though. If she couldn't bear a child with either of the sacred gears he was looking for, he wouldn't kill her or anything. No. She was too valuable to do such a thing. Instead, he would simply turn her into his bishop. She would serve him and him alone, but she would no longer be his absolute priority. He would focus on finding someone else. Even if she did create his proper successor, she would still be reincarnated as a devil. She was valuable, but it would determine whether or not she was going to be someone he'd actually give the time of day towards. 9 months later, and she actually did something no other was able to accomplish. He held the baby in his arms and could immediately tell there was something special about the boy. Besides the boy having a great amount of magical potential, there was something that Mephisto was looking for. Something he yearned for. But after all of these attempts, Mephisto finally had a child who wielded one of the most powerful sacred gears. It was the boosted gear. Mephisto was overjoyed to have finally had a child who was worthy of taking his throne when he was older. The first couple of years were pretty great for Issei. His parents were pretty nice and they didn't seem to ever have to struggle financially. Everything changed when he became 5 years old, though. After his 5th birthday, Issei was trained rigorously by his parents. He didn't know why, though. Was this something that all 5-year-olds went through? As his mind and body continued to develop, he was eventually taught the magical arts by his mother. She was a master magician and he was her apprentice. Several spells Issei ended up learning from his mother over the years. His father was stern but caring. What Mephisto cared about were results. He couldn't afford to have a weak ear, especially one who wielded the sacred gear, boosted gear. It would have brought great shame to him if that were the case. Several years went by with Issei eventually learning how to summon his boosted gear. By the time he was 12 years of age, he had already unlocked the scale mail armor of his boosted gear and was well versed in magical spells. Although he wasn't as adept as his mother, his boosted gear made up for that. He had more potential than either of his parents when it came on to wielding magic. It was fairly obvious when Issei was first born. Mephisto could tell the boy would be great. There was something bugging Issei, though. No one else showed the same amount of skills as himself. Actually, not even skill. When he was at school or out in public in general, Issei found no one who could even wield a speck of magic. Why was that? He asked a dragon within his arm about it from time to time, but Drake was avoiding giving him an answer. Eventually, Drake gave up and just told Issei to ask his father. Issei was confused as to why Drake wouldn't give him an answer, and he wondered what his father had to do in all of this. Issei asked the same question to his father, and Mephisto sighed. Issei raised an eyebrow in confusion. His father saw his magical skills before, so he knew that the man at least understood some of what was going on. "Have a seat, son," Mephisto stated. There was a lot the two needed to discuss here. So I know around this age you're beginning to grow curious about the world. You're probably going to go through some weird changes in your body soon enough, such as growing hair in weird places, acne, and your voice will begin to get deeper as well. Dad? You're not answering the question. Besides, with all that weird stuff you're talking about, can't I just shapeshift to get rid of those things? Actually, no. Don't answer that question. I'll figure it out myself. What I really want to know is why it seems like I'm the only one who can do all of this. No one else seems to be displaying any abilities of any sort. Why is that? Mephisto sunk deeper into the couch, wondering how he could raise this bombshell. Well, Issei, the reason most aren't able to do what you do may have to do with them being human. Some are incapable of using magic, others have sacred gears like you, but they're rather rare. It also probably has to deal with them being 100% human too, Mephisto explained. 100% human? What does that mean? Son, prepare yourself. Don't freak out, but I haven't been completely honest to you your whole life. What are you getting at? Are you going to say not my real father or something? Already did a paternity test. You're mine. That's also how I know you're Pipe Devil. Mephisto stated, I'm what? Pipe Devil. You see, I'm actually what this world would describe as, well, the red guy with the horns and trident, or like that giant pitchfork. You know, well, Satan. The dude, you know, that dude, yeah, the one that you see, like, described as pure evil and all that. Yeah, that's me. Your mother is, well, was, I should say, human. After you were born, she served their purpose. I reincarnated her as a devil and made her my bishop. She was an incredibly strong magician, and she even had a sacred gear. It would have been a waste if I did not turn her into my bishop. Now that you know all of that, Issei, you have a lot to live up to. I expect great things from you in the future, Mephisto mentioned. Issei was left in a state of disbelief. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His sweet and loving father was actually the devil? Impossible! Wait! No, that actually made sense. Is that why you trained me so hard since the age of 5? Issei asked. Yeah, let's go with that, Mephisto explained. Since Mom is a magician and you said that there are more people who know magic in this world, does that mean there are other magical girls? Mephisto nodded. Mind if I have one? Mephisto laughed. He really was his son. He waved Issei off, though, explaining that he was a bit too young for that right now. He still needed to get stronger physically and mentally before he could be allowed to think of that. 3 years went by and Issei was 15 years of age. He talked with Drake a lot, and he made friends within his school, although he knew that he was above them. Just because he was above them everywhere else while he was on Earth, he could act like a normal kid from time to time, go to the arcade, skip school, and fantasize over what he'd be having for dinner. Those were Issei's main concerns while focusing on his human side. After a boring day at school, Issei walked home and found a new person in his living room. It was a girl with long blonde hair. She also had deep blue eyes. She seemed to be on the younger side. Issei was confused. It didn't look like any girl from his school, so what was she doing here? How did she get here, actually? His father was Mephisto, for crying out loud. If this girl wasn't supposed to be here, then his father would have made sure she wasn't, so there must have been something special about her. Hey Mom, Dad, I'm home, Issei hollered. And what's with the kid? Mephisto smirked and folded his arms. He introduced Issei to Lefei. She was a young and prosperous magician. She had plenty of potential, and he wanted to make sure she had the best resources to make sure her potential wasn't wasted. Not in the slightest. This was all useful information for Issei, but it didn't necessarily answer his question. It didn't change the fact that some kid was in his house and they weren't related by blood. That's not really answering my question, Issei exclaimed. Here's the thing, Issei. Your mother will be training the girl and she'll actually be forming a contract with you, Mephisto explained. This made Issei's eyes widen. A contract? He always heard about his father having collected several contracts throughout the existence of the underworld society, and he always knew he would eventually have to start forming some as well, but he never expected to form one so soon, especially with a magician girl of all people. He was honestly expecting to make one with some big dude who wanted to be a magician girl or something. Well, a magical girl, I should say. Issei wasn't complaining though. The two formed their pact, and the rest was history. Lefei learned quite a few things from Lavinia, and Issei learned different forms of magic from Lefei. He never thought he'd ever learn how to use Norse magic, in all honesty, or even hear about it. The two formed a rather close bond over the years and began to see each other as more than just associates or even friends. Issei saw Lefei as a little sister figure, while Lefei began to see Issei as an older brother. And you people better not start talking in the comments like oh, what kind of brother, what kind of sister. This is pretty pure for right now. The girl had grown so close to the family that she even called Lavinia Mom. She wasn't necessarily so close to the family to call Mephisto her father yet, though. She referred to Mephisto as Lord Mephisto instead. Eventually came time for Lefei to move on into middle school. Mephisto ended up enrolling her into Kuo Academy. The main reason for this being because of the fact the heiresses for two prominent clans, Citri and Gremory, were going to be at the school. With this in mind, Mephisto believed that she would be in good hands. After all, no one would dare mess with people from such well-known clans within the underworld unless they had the death wish. Her whole connection with Mephisto was meant to be kept under wraps, though, since she was meant to observe the area for now. See what was going down in that school in order to see if it were okay to have the two heiresses in the same school as each other. He knew that devils could be quite competitive after all. He only hoped that these girls weren't using their magic in front of everyone to witness. It would cause too much attention and questions would begin to be asked. He wasn't interested in those sort of headaches. It would be bad for business. After all, how was he supposed to get more souls if everyone knew about his existence? They would all find out about his wicked tactics in order to gain the edge in most things. Thankfully, He didn't hear much about Sona and Rias causing trouble in the school, well as far as LaFay was reporting, but he knew it would be difficult for her to keep a closer eye on them, considering how she was several grade levels below the two. He thought about the ages of the girls and realized that Issei was pretty similar in age to them, probably like just a year younger. All he had to do was pull a couple of strings in order to enroll his son into the academy for the next year. He managed to get a decent amount of corrupt people into power over the last couple of years, ones that mattered for what he wanted at the time anyway, and he remembered that they also owed him a couple of favors for doing so. When the school year was beginning to approach the end for Kuo Academy, Mephisto visited the superintendent and smirked, seeing their panicked face. All the color in the man's face disappeared. They had a feeling about what Mephisto was here for. "Please, sir, I beg of you, spare me," the superintendent cried. Mephisto dismissed his begging though and demanded he get up. He was here to cash in a favor, and in exchange they would get an extra couple of years with his soul. The superintendent looked up, surprised. What sort of favor could Mephisto possibly want that would be more valuable than his soul? Not that he was complaining or anything. Kuo Academy. It's an all-girls school, am I correct? Mephisto asked. The superintendent nodded, confused as to where Mephisto was going with this. Did he want him to sacrifice some of the girls there? Oh, why did he have to get himself into... Make it open to the male populace as well. What? You heard me, and I do not like to repeat myself. Do we have an issue, Mr. Superintendent? Mephisto's aura flared. No, none at all, sir. I'll get right to it. Mephisto patted the panicked male on the head before making his leave. As he stepped through the portal, he mentioned one more thing. Oh, and if I don't see my request fulfilled for the next school year and moving forward, I'll be sure to extract your soul in the most painful and humiliating way possible. Do I make myself clear? The lowly mortal nodded his head furiously. Mephisto left right after. Sure enough, by the time the next school year rolled around, Kuo Academy was open to the male populace as well. Several ended up joining the school, although the female population was still the majority. Issei was one of the males to end up being enrolled into Kuo Academy. Mephisto made sure of it. Issei was essentially eye candy for many of the girls, considering the fact he didn't necessarily have a proper base form. He just shapeshifted to fit his needs, and it just so happened that the one he stayed in the most often was quite desirable in human woman's eyes. He wasn't really interested in most of the girls though. Only a few girls within the school stood out to him, and even then, they weren't necessarily human. He recognized the devil when he saw one. They had a different aura to them than simple humans. The Occult Research Club was full of devils, and the class president was a devil as well. The leader of the Occult Research Club's name was Rias Fremery, and she was friends with Sona Citri, the class president. Both were devils from powerful clans. Their siblings, their siblings also worked under his father. The girls within their peerages were not unattractive either, to say the least. They were the minority though. Everyone else in the school was boring to him. Issei did pretty well in his classes, but he grew annoyed with how some of the girls would stare at him like a piece of meat. The most interesting thing that happened to him while going to the school though was when he met this new foreign exchange student. She was honestly quite cute, but he could tell from her aura that she wasn't what she came off as. Her name was apparently Yuma, and she interested Issei for the first time since he enrolled in the academy. He showed her around school and she even asked him on a date afterwards. In most situations, Issei would have probably rejected pretty much any girl that tried to do some flirting with him, but Yuma was different. After the school day was over, he met up with Yuma and their date started from there. They had a pretty fun time in all honesty. They went to the carnival and he won her a giant teddy bear. She seemed so happy, and on top of that, they also went to eat at a decent restaurant. They just talked about their personal lives, but from the way Yuma was talking, he could tell that she was hiding something. He didn't know what though. It didn't help with her aura either. It was strong, but it was different from a devil's own. He would have to figure this out soon, but for now he was just enjoying his time with the girl. By the end of the night, they were pretty much just walking into the park. Yuma was holding her giant teddy bear tight while Issei had his hands in his pockets, smiling. Yuma turned to Issei and decided to ask him a question. "Would you die for me?" she asked. Her aura became far more intense. As soon as she said that. Issei immediately got into a combative stance, while Yuma went through a Sailor Moon outfit change. Suddenly, wings sprouted from her back, and she took on a more sadistic personality. Her outfit was now more dominatrix in nature. She laughed at Issei, believing he was just a pitiful human. She went on to explain how it was so easy to trick him into actually liking her and thinking he actually had a chance with her. Although he was cute, she liked the guys who were more dominant. He was going to die tonight, and that was that. She formed a light spear in her hand, but, well, simply put, she was shocked when she saw Issei activate his boosted gear. One boost was all he needed in order to dodge her attack and quickly grab her face. He forced her to crash into the ground. She was slightly dazed from just that attack, but Issei didn't stop there. As soon as Rainier tried to form another light spear and get up from her position, Issei kicked her teeth in. He twisted her arm and picked her up off the ground before kneeing her in the back. She screamed in pain and was left immobilized. "Oh, you poor fallen angel. You must not know who I am. The name's Issei, the son of Mephisto, the ruler of the underworld." It's been a pretty well-kept secret up until now though, so I can't blame you for not knowing. I kinda liked you as Yuma though, and you said you liked guys who were dominant, right? Rainer didn't know where Issei was going with this. I'll tell you what. Rather than just kill you here and now, I'll make you my pet. Allow me to give you your leash, Issei stated. He created a seal for Rainier right after she was healed from the attack. She was healed from the injuries, but when she tried to attack Issei, she was electrocuted. She screamed in pain and wondered just what Issei did to her. He crouched down and explained the seal to her. She could no longer even attempt to fight him. He was her master, and she would follow his bidding. Issei smiled and patted her on the head. It only took a week for her to become completely submissive to him. Mephisto, when he first heard the news, simply shrugged. He didn't really care if Issei had a new pet fallen angel as long as she didn't break stuff, that or if he broke her. When Faye found out, she was a bit weirded out at first, but it was more so because of the fact that it had only just happened now. Considering her living situation, she wasn't too surprised. It would have happened sooner or later. Eventually, Rainier would go on to ask Issei if she could recruit some more people. Issei was a bit confused at first until she explained how before she became his tool, she actually worked with a couple of other fallen angels, 2 girls and 1 guy. Issei was interested and granted her permission to seek them out. He was really only interested in the girls though. Well, maybe the guy, but maybe the guy could be his butler or something. Sure, Graphia was his maid, but she was also one of his father's advisors. He respected her, but to have his own personal butler that he could do just about anything to, with them being unable to do anything back to him, sounded like a wonderful idea. The next time Rainier reported in, she mentioned how she was able to gather them all in one location. They were in an abandoned building. Issei immediately made a magical circle and transported to her area. When he saw the other 3 fallen angels, he immediately beat them into submission and placed the seals on different parts of their body. The man had the seal placed around his chest while the girls had them placed around the sides of their necks. Well, side of their necks, I should say. Just like that, Issei went from 1 pet to 4, and he made sure to train them as well. It took around the same amount of time it took for Rainier to understand her place. Once they were dealt with, Issei decided to ask if there was any important information he needed to know. Metelt was the one to spill the beans here about there being a human girl with an interesting sacred gear that allowed her to heal people. She was a nun, and they were able to indoctrinate her into their organization, although she hardly knew any of their real intentions at the time. Issei was interested in the notion of having someone with a sacred gear on his side. After all, it would also be the first time he would be seeing a sacred gear with his very own eyes, besides, his own. Since Metelt was the one to inform Issei about the girl, she was the one sent to get the nun. It didn't seem to take too long for Metelt to get the younger girl. When he finally met her, he saw the innocence in her eyes. He almost felt bad for wanting to turn her into one of his pets. An epiphany hit him though. At that moment, Issei decided to turn her into something more than just a pet. Rather, he would turn her into one of his servants, a peerage member. For now though, he decided to actually get to know the girl. He explained that his name was Issei and he would help her to become strong. The church didn't see her true value, but he sure did, and he would make her strong. He knew her true value in this world, and he would show her how much he appreciated it if she were to join him. Asya was confused and extremely nervous. Issei chuckled, realizing he was going too fast with her. She probably barely understood the situation she was in before. He could only imagine what she was going through. Well, what was going through her head right now. He'd fill her in on the information as time went by. Issei put a seal on her and sent her off with Donasik. He would watch over her, and Issei would come visit her until she became more comfortable around him. After all, what was the point of having a peerage if one of the members couldn't even feel safe around their king? And that's basically how I'm going to end part 1 for right now, people. Yeah, this was literally all scripted, 41 minutes long, my goodness. Well, 40 minutes long. It's probably going to be like 39 to 40 minutes long by the time I finish editing this. So yeah, it is King Ty Next signing out. You guys already know what to do. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, it is King Ty Next out.